Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am in Mount Mora Cemetery in St. Joseph, Missouri. This is the oldest cemetery in St. Joseph, and it dates back to 1851, and it was listed on the National Register of Historic Places, this whole area. And not surprisingly, there is a lot of, I mean, it definitely looks old, not just judging by the tombstones, but, you know, the layout, because most of it is all one-horse roads, like one car can drive on it. Let me show you. Yeah, like this. Not surprisingly, you know, during St. Joseph's golden age, a lot of the city's wealthy people are buried here. But the whole purpose of this episode is to highlight that guy right there. His name is David Johnson Heaton. He was the first undertaker and funeral director in the United States. And I'll go ahead and just get on to it. Okay, David Johnson Heaton, born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, December 6, 1808, died here in St. Joseph, Missouri on April 28th, 1898. So that would have made him 89 years old. Wow, I'm doing the math in my head. Yep, it says aged 89, never mind. He united with the M.E. Church in 1834, a member till death, a member of the IOOF, from 1850 till death. In June 1827, became a professional undertaker and funeral director, being the first in the U.S. for which he was presented in 1890. Over 190 contestants with a cold-headed cane by the sunny side, the oldest undertaker's journal in the world, and pronounced the first undertaker and veteran of veterans. Okay, so that's what the description says on his marker. And then also buried with him, or I'm sorry, it just says born to DJ and Emily Heaton, DJ and Lucinda Heaton, and Elvira Heaton. Okay. So what else can I tell you about David Johnson Heaton? Well, unfortunately I wasn't able to dig up very much information, but I did find some information from the funeral home's website. Now, the funeral home is the oldest one in the state of Missouri. You know, that's very impressive. You know, it could have went to St. Louis or Kansas City or any other, or any historical small town. But nope, it is here in St. Joseph. But anyway, oh, that by the way, the name of the chapel is Heaton, Bowman, Smith, and Sidon Faden Chapel. But it is also the oldest business firm in the city of St. Joseph. And Heaton also lived in Sparta, Missouri. Now, St. Joseph was originally a trading post settlement known as Black Snake Landing on the banks of the Missouri River. St. Joseph is famous for a lot of things. I mean, yeah, it's the birthplace of Eminem, the rapper, and it was also the place where Jesse James was shot. I was there back in the early 90s with my parents. I was too young to really know about Jesse James. But unfortunately, I won't be stopping there on this trip, but maybe sometime in the future. But anywho, Heaton was primarily a cabinet maker, and he built caskets. And I don't really know how he ended up in the funeral business, but he served as the arranger and director of funerals. And his business was on First Street. Through the years, though, it moved and expanded in several locations to meet the city's needs. In 1844, it moved to the corner of 6th and Francis Streets and remained there until 1859, when it was destroyed by fire. But after that, he pretty much gave up on that and devoted everything, went full-time on undertaking. He also served as the city coroner and was a city marshal. But during his lifetime, he made 1,000 caskets. Very impressive. Well, I mean, I guess this would be a good business to get into because, yeah, people are always dying. I know it's an absurd thing to say. Now you're probably wondering, now if he's the first funeral director and it happened during the 18th or the 19th century, then what were funeral directors before him? Well, funeral services were usually conducted by ministers or actually clergy and the person's own family members. Yeah, that's how it was. And then, but today, I mean, if you're willing, I mean, it's I mean, I definitely had to be certified, and I actually knew a guy who worked in the funeral business, and he was a mortician, and he says, yeah, I can either marry you or I can bury you. Putting it in a joking manner, but that's pretty much all I can find on David Heaton. So I thought this was would be a really interesting place to visit here in St. Joseph. But rest in peace, David Johnson Heaton. All right, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in St. Joseph, Missouri, signing off.